All right, everybody, I'm sitting here with Jesse Phelps here at the St. Louis Days of .NET Conference for 2013. And Jesse has been here a few times. He's been here, 5 out of the 6 conferences, so that's huge. I mean, he's a regular here. People know him. So I'm going to go ahead and let Jesse go ahead and talk a little bit about himself, and we'll get into the interview.
All right. Well, the question that everybody seems to start with is how did they get into technology? Right. I actually started really playing with electronics around the age of 5. Right. My grandpa would take apart flashlights, and we would string them out on the table and hook up alligator clamp wires and connect the flashlights outside of the packaging. And he was teaching me how it all works, and then we would add bells and switches and buzzers and all kinds of things. And really that's kind of what set the direction for further exploration of electronics. And
I took stompers apart.
Nice.
They never seem to be as strong whenever you got them put back together.
Yes.
It's like, oh, darn, I messed it up.
Yes, and my dad is an electronics technician in the Navy, and so as I got a little bit older and started to learn more, probably 8, 9 years old, he started educating me on transistors and on how circuit boards are manufactured and all those kind of things. So I've always just had that exposure to it, and then once we got a computer in the home, I was in 4th grade, I think, when we got our first computer. And that sort of opened up a whole new world of things to do. And I think a year after we had it, I took it apart. And
what'd they think about it?
My mom was really unhappy about it. My dad kind of assumed that we would be able to get it back together fine.
And those weren't cheap,
No, they weren't. It was probably a $2,000 piece of junk, really. But I figured out everything worked and put all it back together. Only had a handful of screws left over,
right.
And everything worked. And at that point, then I started doing upgrades and expansions and those kind of things, and learned how to write Visual Basic 4. Was probably, I think, was my first introduction to development in 6th grade. I think was when that happened. And again, opportunities from family members. My aunt was dating a guy who was a software developer, and so he gave me a pirated copy of Visual Basic 4, of course, but Microsoft should be happy about that,
right?
Because they've more than gotten their money back from me.
Definitely.
And so he got me started, and it was great. It was just a natural progression of the electronics that I was starting to play with and bring everything together, and really the rest is history. Web development in high school, started building computers for people, in my free time. That was essentially the job that I had in high school.
Back when building a computer for a person was actually profitable.
Yes, exactly, yeah. I did IT work for the school as well. They'd call me out of study hall and classes sometimes.
Send Jesse down, please.
Yes, exactly, and asked me to come do things. And then, so I went to Southern Illinois University, Edwardsville, which is here in the St. Louis area, and studied electrical engineering and computer science. And I'm just about done with a master's in electrical enginering, actually, as well. So,
how much more time you got with that?
I'm just finishing the project.
Wow.
So I should be done in May.
That's good. So that's going to open up some doors for you.
It really probably won't, honestly. It won't contribute to my career path any, because I've gone down the software road so much.
Okay.
But so it's more of a personal accomplishment at this point.
It's one of those things. I started it. I've got to finish it, because I don't want to waste it 2, 3, 4, however long it is you've been working towards it.
It is, absolutely. And the thing is that it's really actually odd to me, but the .NET Java development pays significantly better than doing the electrical engineering work does. So I went that route. It's a skill that I had still. It's enjoyable. It was kind of just, which one am I going to do? Well, I'll do the one that pays more.
So talking about doing programming with Visual Basic and stuff, do you do more like software? Do you do mobile apps? Or what is it that you
professionally?
You like doing?
I spent most of my time doing web development.
Okay.
And it's most of that time has been C#, .NET development, MVC, web forms, that kind of stuff. I've also done a lot of database work with that. I was part-time DBA at one of the companies I was at, and SQL Server was primarily what we were using. And then now, though, I'm actually doing some Java work. I realize I'm at a .NET conference, but it's it's really in today's world, you got to be versatile and ready to pick up
You know,
whatever.
as they say, it's kind of like bilingual, because I mean it's a language, and once
Yes.
you learn one language, you're more apt to be able to learn more. So being
Yep.
bilingual or just knowing more, it can never hurt.
Absolutely. So just add more tools to the tool belt.
Right. Have you ever thought about? Well, you've probably thought about it. Have you done any apps? I mean, have you wanted to work on anything like that, where you like? I see this need. I mean, are you iPhone, Android, Windows phone?
I have an iPhone at the moment. I have had a Windows phone in the past.
Mm-hmm.
I will probably get an Android device next, and I'll probably land in that area, is my guess, and stay there. So to answer the question regarding have I done any development, I haven't actually done any real development, like no apps that are out there. I've just played around a little to experiment with the technology.
Mm-hmm.
The major thing, about app development and really website development, the major value proposition that things seem to add isn't in the technology itself. It's in the relationships and the data and information that you have access to and capabilities to provide. And the things that I've had ideas about being able to do all require dozens of relationships to make happen, and those are always the difficult thing to get done, right? The real value from businesses typically is the relationships and connections that they have to pull it all together, and that's where the obstacles have been in trying to do that with a couple of things. But I still have a couple that I'm working on. A couple in the medical space, and I do homebrewing as well.
Okay.
And
Yeah.
I've had
Yeah.
one in the beer space, but again, it's just a matter of trying to get the right relationships together to really make it happen.
So do you have like a favorite craft brewery in the area? Like Schlafly or
Actually, 6 Row.
6 Row?
I like a lot, and their double IPA in particular. So whenever I don't have any of my own homebrew ready for consumption, I'll go there and get theirs.
Nice.
So.
Yeah, that's another one of my passions. And I actually do have, we have this one, but we also have one. It's STLTechTalk, but it's kind of on hiatus as we try to grow, as we grow this. And
Nice.
we got a homebrew community in the area where I live, and they meet once a month. In fact, Thursday night they had their most recent meeting, but I was here. My friends were like, "Hey, are you going to be coming to that?" I'm like, "No, I'm at the developer conference, checking it out, meeting people." And like,
there's a large crossover between those communities.
There is.
are lots of people here who really enjoy microbrews, and
because I mean it's a lot of science into it.
It is, yes.
And, chemistry. So, and it's always with people that are creative. Again, you're being creative with that. So it is interesting how those worlds will overlap, and people don't even really realize that. And again, St. Louis is such a huge,
beer history.
Yeah, beer history, and putting that as the tech growth in the area, it is interesting to see that overlap somewhat.
It is, and it's good. We get together and can talk tech while we're making beer, and
right. Yeah,
it's a lot of fun.
It's a great social.
Yeah,
it's a great reason to be getting people together.
It is, yes.
All right. So speaking about the St. Louis Days of .NET, again, this is 2013, so it's on their 6th or 7th year that they've done this, and you've been here before. What are your thoughts about the conference and what it does for the area of developers? I mean, I know they bring in attendees and speakers from all over the country and stuff, and I know there's a sister one over in Kansas City. What do you think in particular of the St. Louis?
I think it's great. The major benefit that I feel that people get out of it, whether or not they realize it, are the relationships and connections that you make. There's a reason why it's a cliche saying, right? But it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that's definitely true. Most people find their next job opportunities from mingling with people at conferences and getting their name out there. And there's lots of recruiters that come here to meet people as well. So that's the major value that I really feel like people truly get from these conferences. They may just not make the direct connection because there's a time lag between those relationships happening and then something happening from it, right? Yeah. But I think for the most part, the education that you get here is great because it's condensed. A lot of the work has been done for you, but it's really things you could do on your own. You could study these things. It's just great to have one place you can come and get it, the distilled down version, a lot of the trials that people have gone through to learn, they're able to tell you, when you're trying to do this thing, here are the pitfalls, here are the pieces that are the stumbling blocks that you can watch out for. Those are key pieces of information that are difficult to get without the experience of just doing it yourself.
The time saver things, what could take you 3 to 4 hours by yourself, it's only going to take you an hour because we're going to help you avoid.
Exactly.
We've been there. We've gone down this road. We know which way to steer clear of.
Yep. The social events around it, though, I think are very important, and the more that people participate in them, I think that they'll find the more benefit they really get long term from being involved in these communities.
And I know you said you gave 2 presentations. So go ahead and tell everybody a little bit about what you spoke on and the reception. Did you have a nice
Sure.
audience?
So being an electrical engineer in my background, the subject area that I tend to operate in these conferences is how to use your software development skills to program the physical world. And how can you tie sensors and controls and motors into the development work that you're doing and make real things happen. So one of the talks I gave today, there's a device called a Netduino, which runs .NET micro framework on it, but it's a microcontroller, and you can easily access sensors and control motors. And so I did an introductory talk to that, and then that was followed up by a real-world example. And I actually have a smoker that I built. It's the Alton Brown style smoker with the terracotta flower pots.
Yeah.
So I made that, but then I automated it in terms of controlling the temperature. So I have a temperature probe that's connected to a Netduino, and then it is controlling a hot plate, turning that on and off accordingly to maintain the right temperature balance. And there's other things I'm going to add to it as well. I'm getting ready to make it wireless, and then I'll have a web server that actually is what's connected to it as well and controls it, so I can just set it from my phone. And possibly going to add an optical sensor to tell me when smoke has slowed down in production or stopped, so then I know I need to go change the wood chips and some of those kind of pieces to it as well. So
that actually, that sounds like so way over my head, but that sounds so interesting. Especially,
and it's not over your head. That's the thing. That's what the message that I'm trying to get to the people who are active software developers is. You're more scared of it than it is of you, right?
Right. Exactly. I definitely know that feeling. It's just like starting these the web show and podcast and stuff. It's like just stop talking about it, start doing it.
Yep.
Just do it. Just dive in.
Yep. And there's not a huge investment.
No.
When you look at things that are out in the world that do these things, they're expensive. But that's because of the expenses associated with the engineering work. The actual sensors themselves are sometimes 10 cents, maybe a couple bucks. A Netduino is a little pricey. It's about $50 to get one that has an Ethernet connection on it. But that's the most expensive part. The rest of the sensors are, a few dollars. So it's really easy to experiment, and you're not putting a lot of cost into it. So if it doesn't work, you're not out a lot.
But if it does,
exactly.
Reaping the benefits.
Yeah. And even if it doesn't work, you've learned a lot, right? A failed experiment is not a failure.
Right.
That's still educational.
You've learned from that.
That's right.
Apply that knowledge to the next project. I know not to do this, and I can just make sure I do this.
Yep.
And this is gonna work this time because I've already experienced that with this project.
It was Edison or Franklin or somebody who said that I haven't failed. I've just successfully discovered 100 ways it doesn't work. Something like that.
Yeah.
So.
Yes, I've heard that before.
Yeah.
I think it was Edison. So so you did a second one too as well.
Yeah, that's what I did. I did the introductory talk, and then I did the smoker talk.
Great,
so
great.
those two both on Netduino.
So what were people's thoughts? Did people come up to you after the session and that was really cool?
What was actually great was they were during the session trying to think about other applications. And so I was getting questions, as we've already discussed, do homebrew, and there were a few other people in that session who brew as well. And so they were immediately asking questions about, well, how would I control a burner, let's say, for my propane stove that I use for brewing? They were immediately thinking of other applications. So that was great. That's probably the first year I've actually had that experience. Normally, I get a lot of people not necessarily sure how to get started, not sure what that next step could be. But this year, it felt really like everybody's already ready to go, and they had ideas. So
the homebrewing, I know, like we mentioned, it's really taking off. A lot of people are doing it at home. So yeah, it's really neat to be able to do stuff like that and integrate electronic technology, be able to handle, do that, be able just, you're just limited to your imagination.
You really are.
And it's just finding something and go, how can I make that better?
Yeah, it is.
That's
And really, that's what I think is great. You were kind of mentioning earlier a little bit about talking about where this conference is going and technology in general. And what's happening with a lot of modern technology that is so great is how accessible it makes complicated things for people to do. We're getting to a world where technology has removed all the barriers that your imagination is now your limit. There's very low capital investment needed to make something and really to make your life better. Right? That's really what it all the value that things really add. So these microcontrollers and 3D printing and all these types of things that are going on.
Oh, gosh, 3D printing. Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Unbelievable stuff. What people can do with that just from computer drafted design. And just looking at that, it's like, wow, smooth and. Again, you're just limited to whatever you want to do.
Exactly, yep.
What you want to do, it's great. So where can people find you online?
My blog is jessephelps.com, JESSEPHELPS.com. Twitter handle is @JessePhelps. Those are the two main places to contact me. I'm available on LinkedIn as well, Jesse Phelps on there too. I use Facebook as well, but I keep that just for personal use. So,
family, friends and family. With like your smoker stuff in your presentation, do you have that like on your blog?
Yes.
Where if somebody was interested in that, they could go to it.
Yep.
And check it out.
Yep.
Maybe do something of their own. Like we just mentioned. We got the holidays coming up, smoking hams, turkeys,
That's right.
all that good stuff.
Right. Brew a Christmas ale.
There you go. Oh gosh, perfect time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So no, my blog, I do put up technology articles about the electronics. Also on the sequel side, I have a few areas there that I'm particularly interested in, and seemingly an oddball in a couple of those. So I post a lot about that, and then beer. I post a lot about beer too.
Nothing wrong with that. All right. Well, Jesse, again,
right, thank you.
Thank you for being on. Again, Jesse Phelps, everybody, jessephelps.com.
Yep.
.com, jessephelps.com. All right.